we're never far from a conversation about wide receivers. Just this offseason, that's where it's going to be. But this one, I think, is asked in an interesting and unique way, so that's why I wanted to lead the show with it. So Nittany over at the Blue White Illustrated message board says, Andy Kotelnicki is known for making his offense work with the pieces he has. Who is the biggest unused piece from 2023 that might make an impact now in the new situation? Fitz, we're going to start with you. What are your thoughts on who is an underutilized piece or a piece that might just take a step this year?
I mean, that's a good question because when I thought about this, I was like, well, they used a lot of the pieces last year. They just didn't work.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. But I think the one guy that I keep going back to is Amari Evans. You've got that speed. Like that speed is undeniable. How do you use it? How do you harness it? Does that work with, as a guy that's like a jet sweep type option guy? Is it a guy that you just run down the field? Like you need to harness some sort of speed. And I think Kansas did a very good job with that, not only north-south, but also east-west. And I think that's the guy that probably more than anybody you just looked at during the Yurcich time and said, where is this guy? And he's got to do things on his own. Like he's got to take care of business on the practice field. He's got to take care of business just everywhere to get where he needs to get. There are reasons why he didn't play. It's not a situation, but he has that talent. He has that ability to be a missing piece because number one, he was so missing, like he was milk carton missing. And number two, you've seen the speed and you've seen it work out. So hopefully you can find a way to use Amari Evans. I think he's got a talent, but it's going to be very interesting to see the way that they will end up deploying him.
The other thing that I think is interesting is just his personality. The more we've gotten to know it, physical dude. Not only fast, the pass interference stuff, the OPI is a bit of a problem, but you love the physicality he's playing with. I thought that's an interesting combination of two things. Nate, who do you think is an underutilized piece in the offense that might take a step?
Honestly, Penn State didn't use Julian Fleming at all last year.
You were just the worst.
So, I mean, really, yeah. So, no, look, Caden is obviously a guy that, right. What do you do with him? Right. I don't know. Look, when I think back on last year, the comments from Franklin, again, paraphrasing, but effectively saying we've got to stop fixating on what guys can't do and turn our attention to utilize what they can do. Caden feels to me like that's who he's talking about, right? And Omari, but kind of both of those guys in terms of what are their liabilities, what are their vulnerabilities, of which I think it's probably fair to say there are many based on Penn State's evaluation of them in practice, right? The things that they see in practice, the consistency that they see in practice, all of those things. And yet at the same time, Saunders is a guy who produced when he had opportunities, not all the time, but in games he showed up. Maybe he's one of those guys. I don't know. Certainly I think that this is a situation where Penn State would again like to see him take some significant strides this offseason, right? I mean, these are the months that, again, like this is when it gets done. This is how you set yourself up to be more of a factor by demonstrating and proving that you're serious about this and that you are going to take those strides. So, it's just a question to me of is there a ceiling on what Saunders can do versus no, there isn't. He just has to have that time to develop into that player.
I'm going to go just quickly a little off the beaten path and talk about something that I think was a limiting factor by the end of the season. And Penn State basically ran two offensive run blocking systems, inside zone and outside zone. In the years before, they had done a little, like 2022, they had a diverse set of what they could run. They could run counter, pitch, pull. They ran a little bit of power. So pull blocking from the offensive line is something they basically didn't do last year. Part of that is the tight ends did not block well. So a lot of those situations, you're pulling a tight end, or the tight end has to set a block for, and check out T. Frank's film room from this past year of all the times they didn't set a block for a pin and pull to get Nick Singleton out into space. So I think there might be even a little bit of Sal Wormley was utilized where 2022, he was decent at pulling. 2023, he basically didn't do that. And then what is Vega Ioane's ability to do in that situation as well? So I guess that to me, the offensive run blocking and using some of those guys, their athleticism, Do they even have it? What do we get from them with Andy Kotelnicki? Is there more diversity in the run game? I think those are some things that might be able to help going forward.
So you're saying you thought of an answer since we talked about this in the pre-show?
Yes. Yes, I did.
He was going to say Trey Wallace.
I was, because he was injured, and he's also, he's the version of Amari Evans that Penn State presumably already has, where they trust him to be out there. He's explosive. He's the downfield guy. He's a contested catch, theoretically, guy that can jump, but we haven't seen it. So it's underutilized. Yeah.